So, hey, everybody, this is Michael Bryson for This is Bodybuilding for the podcast. And I have my first guest, George Peterson, 212 IFBB Pro. How's it going, George?
Hey, I'm doing good, Michael. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be on this. I think this is your first episode of
this is the first interview.
Interview. This is Bodybuilding podcast, so I'm honored to be your first interviewee. I tell everybody whenever, people out there all the time, they're saying, that's bodybuilding. That's bodybuilding. No, I say, no, that's not bodybuilding. This is bodybuilding. Right?
I appreciate that, man. So George, first off, congratulations on the Olympia. It was amazing, man. It was really for me. I had the pleasure of watching some of the last minute prep stuff going on with your posing and everything. It was really exciting for me to be there those last few days and to watch that stuff. So I want to thank you and Justin for allowing me to partake in that.
Oh, absolutely. It was a pleasure to have you there and, get some of your feedback too, like, because, all of us, different feedback is good, So it was a pleasure to have you there.
No, thank you. How are you feeling about that placing now? You were third.
Yeah. It's like, it's funny because I was talking to Justin about this just yesterday. It's like, it's kind of a mixed emotion kind of feeling. On one end of the spectrum, I'm happy because I put it in the same box as I would when I first got third in classic physique. Like that was my first time at the Olympia as an IFBB pro. It was my first year as an IFBB pro, making it to the Olympia stage and boom, placing top 3 in the world, boom, just like that. So that was like a surreal feeling. Even though you didn't win, it felt like a win. So I kind of put it in that box, in that spectrum, because this is my first time on the 212 Olympia stage, and then boom, top 3 in the world right off the gate. So I'm happy definitely about that. And on the other end of the spectrum, I don't know if the word is disappointment, but it's just like, we've heard this number before. We've heard third place before. Right. So it's like, we want to climb that ladder. We want to hear some higher numbers now, so higher rankings. So, that's how I kind of feel. It's a mixed emotion, but I'm happy overall because, like I said, look, we've done things, that, a lot of people can't say, that are, in the history books now. For the 4 consecutive years I've been an IFBB pro, we've been top 3 in the world in multiple divisions.
It's unheard of, really, it's amazing.
Right.
I always think about, like, with bodybuilders, how you have this. Everyone wants to win. Like you champions like yourself, you're there to win. But as a fan, someone who's been a fan of the Olympia for so many years, I think of guys like Rich Gaspari, Sean Ray, Flex Wheeler, Kevin Lebroni, those guys who never won the Olympia, but were multiple times in that top 5. And now you've done that top 3 for 4 consecutive years. That's looking back, even if you were to retire tomorrow, which I know you're not going to, right. But if you were, that's a legendary achievement,
Yeah. Absolutely. That's why, and I see that bigger picture, so that's why I'm not bummed out and, I'm not sad. I'm happy because, you have to look at the entire scope. That's the thing about bodybuilding, like in a lot of regards, people say, bodybuilding, because it's a subjective sport. It's not like a sport like basketball or football where you score a touchdown, you can't dispute that, or you dunk a basketball, you can't dispute that. Everybody has their own opinions and whatnot. Well, it's the same thing with your placings. Like, okay, if you get first place, great, but depending on where you're at, a second place can be just as good as a first place, or a third place can be just as good as the first. It depends on where you're at.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, considering like this was your first time in the 212, for instance, third place in the world, that's a win.
Yeah. Right, exactly. So it's not, so in that regard, it's also not that cut and dry. It's not, so I wouldn't call it a loss. I wouldn't call this a loss.
No, yeah. We'll circle back and talk about this Olympia, but I want to kind of ask you, I know you have a martial arts background.
That's right.
Correct?
Yeah.
What came first for you, bodybuilding or martial arts?
Oh, 100% martial arts. Since I was 7 years old, Bruce Lee, was and is my inspiration. I wanted to be just like him when I started, studying the martial arts. And actually at that time I was totally against the whole bodybuilding, lifestyle and culture. Like I didn't want to get that big because I felt like that would slow me down, with my punches and my techniques. So I wanted to stay light, and everything. So yeah, so definitely martial arts came way before bodybuilding. Martial arts is still, my first love, today.
Are you still active in training for martial arts or not?
No, I'm not really that active in it, because it's like I'm just, putting everything to
Of
the
course.
bodybuilding, Yeah, so I just, but it's something I can see myself going back into. Like when that day comes, like you said, that if I decide to retire at any time, that could be something I could easily, go back into, and there's definitely different arts that I would, love to study as well.
What was the form that you were studying, the form of martial arts?
I got my first degree black belt in Shotokan karate.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've been studying that for many years, and then I did a little bit of judo, a little bit of jujitsu, a little bit of Wing Chun. So like if I was to say go back into the martial arts world, the form I would probably decide to go back into to get more acquainted with would probably be jujitsu again.
Okay.
Yeah,
And the Shotokan, that's Japanese style?
yeah, it's Japanese style.
Okay.
That's right.
That's,
Very
what
very.
was it? What was it that attracted you to martial arts to begin with?
Well, I mean, as a kid, I was always into the, like the action movies. So, like I mentioned, Bruce Lee. I mean, so watching all his movies, I mean, he was just like such a larger than life, character to me, or individual personality to me. Just so larger than life. And I was just amazed. I was like, wow, like
Yeah.
how can someone be this amazing, And I was like, I want to be, like that. And then of course, it also trickled down to, you started getting the Van Dams of the world. Uh,
Right.
you got Steven Seagals of the world, and I watched all their movies, and I wanted to be good like these guys, Jet Li, Jackie Chan, I wanted to be like all of them pretty much, and I remember when I think I was about six, I believe I was. I asked my mother to sign me up to for a karate class. I didn't know where there was any karate classes given, but she found one around the neighborhood, and that's where I met my sensei, whose name is Sensei Derek Sharif, and I've studied under him my entire time. I was studying Shotokan karate, so I earned my black belt under him, and he's really the one who he helped me develop that discipline that I was able to carry over into bodybuilding. So that makes it easy for me to stick to my routine, my diet, my training, because he helped with building that foundation of discipline.
Mental toughness, the
Exactly.
mental toughness aspect. And Justin always talks to me about how you are, mentally one of the toughest people he's ever met, and just have that mindset of a champion. That's something that you need, probably more than the genetics, or as much as the genetics anyway.
Right, absolutely. And honestly, I mean, you gotta be upfront. Another thing that attracted me to the martial arts is because, as a little kid, I was never like I was never the toughest little kid out there. So, you had to little, school, bullies here and there,
Yeah.
like to pick on you and stuff like that. And that was a little bit extra motivation, for me to want to learn martial arts. I'm not saying I wanted to learn to beat somebody up, but
Yeah, to defend
yeah,
yourself at least.
defend myself. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So in other words, if somebody put their hands on me, I could beat them up. No,
Right. Yeah.
I'm joking.
Yeah, I always wanted to take martial arts when I was a kid, and I was always bugging my parents to do it. My dad, I was one of 5 kids, and my dad was like, no, because he couldn't afford to do the classes. He was actually paying for me to go to Catholic school too, so it was just too much for him to do. And in my freshman year of high school, I got into a fight with some guy who was a bully. He was picking on me constantly. I was always able to put him down intellectually
Right.
and avoid fights throughout middle school and everything. But this one day, it was just too much. And he punched me. And it was a good sucker punch. And I had a black eye. It lasted for felt like the entirety of the school year, but probably was only like a
Yeah.
week long.
Yeah.
But when my dad saw how I was like dealing with it and just being like pissed off and like ashamed to go to school with this badge of dishonor,
Yeah.
he finally went, "You want to take martial arts still?" I was like, "Yeah." So we signed me up for some karate, and it was amazing. And it does great things for confidence levels and everything else.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, I'm glad you just mentioned that about confidence because I'll tell you a story. After a few months of training in, you know, martial arts. Because once I started, even when I come home, I would put my gi on at home, my white belt and everything, and I practice my blocks, my inside blocks, my outside blocks, everything. And then uh this maybe been I think about, like, I think it was a few months after training. Maybe could have been close to a year after training. But you know, some kid who is in junior high school with, you know, he was trying to start something with me, and he's, you know, and he used to actually, you know, getting physical. And I remember he swung a punch at me, and I remember I blocked it, and I hit him right back. And then as soon as I hit him and I connected, like, you know, full flush, I connected, he immediately backed off,
Right.
and that was the end of it. And you know, and it's not to glorify punching somebody in the face, but it, when that happened, it gave me a sense of confidence. Like,
Right.
you know, like, wow, you know, like for one, what I've been studying is, it works. And you know, and I feel, you know, confident that I can be able to handle myself, you know, after something like that, you know. So
Right.
that was a really good feeling, you know.
When stuff like that happens, like a school setting too, it earns you like a cred, you know, like a reputation. So
Of course.
other bullies will be less likely to pick on someone who's punched somebody in the face.
Right.
Did the martial arts lead to bodybuilding? Was there a connection there, or no?
There actually was a slight connection, because the reason why I actually even started lifting weights was because when I was studying up on Bruce Lee, I read that, I believe it was after he hurt his back and he was kind of bedridden and couldn't walk really for a lengthy amount of time. It might have been that, or no, I believe the actual story was he somebody challenged him to a fight, and he won the fight, but he was upset that the fight took longer than he wanted it to. So yeah, so I believe he started lifting weights, you know, to get stronger with his, you know, his techniques and everything like that.
Mhm.
And that's why, and when I read that, I was like, okay, I'm gonna start to lift weights myself, you know, so I can get stronger with my punches and my, you know, kicks, just everything. I would walk around with ankle weights on, you know, to, you know, so see if that'll strengthen my legs. And you know, I would punch with little, you know, little 5-pounder dumbbells in my
Right.
hands. You know, hopefully that'll make me faster, stronger. But then I eventually, you know, actually joined the gym, and you know, and wanted to, you know, get more but out of the weights. And then when I started doing that, you know, there was one day I was working out with a tank top on, and one of the guys at the gym, he approached me and he said, "Hey, do you compete?" And I said, "No." And he said, "You should." He said, "'Cause I see you have good genetics." I mean, I didn't know what he meant by that, but it intrigued me. And then I started when he said that, like, that was when I went home, I immediately went on the computer and I started you YouTube and bodybuilding, the first bodybuilding video that I ever watched was the 1993 Flex Wheeler Mr. Olympia
Oh wow,
finals routine. And when I saw,
amazing.
yeah, and when I saw him, I was like, wow, like, look at this physique. I mean, you know, and then like, and now for that to be the first impression when you
Yeah.
see bodybuilding, like, it was like easy for me to be like, okay, now I'm really intrigued. And this guy says I have the kind of genetics for something like this, so let me give
Right.
it a try. So through him, that's how I, you know, went into bodybuilding. And so yeah, so that's how it segued into bodybuilding for me.
Yeah, I can see how that would be attractive to you too. Because actually, Flex has got a martial arts background, um, and in that routine, I think he does a split and everything
Right.
too. So you can see how flexible and athletic he is. So that at that point in time for you, that must have been attractive.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep. And then, you know, when I watched that video, then I immediately ended up seeing a Sean Ray video, Lee Priest video, you know, then Ronnie Coleman videos, like everything else. You know, I was, you know, pretty much hooked at that point.
Yeah, would those guys be, you think, your strongest influences or inspirations in bodybuilding, or did you have others that?
One no, 100%. Those guys would be my strongest influence, because whenever, like even today, like whenever I'm, you know, preparing for a show, I always refer back to even those videos I've seen over and over, constantly. I still refer back to those videos of them training, talking about different things with their prep and whatnot. You know, to you know, kind of motivate me and everything like that. You know, it's because I feel like, I mean, for me, you know, looking through all the different eras of bodybuilding, like that era with those guys attract is the most attractive to me, you know.
Mhm.
So yeah.
So what year and how, like, about how old were you when you first started training for bodybuilding?
believe I was about 25, 26. I was I was a late starter because like I
Yeah.
told you, I was totally against, trying to get too big. So it's I ended up, starting late. I was about 25, 26 at the time when I first started actually starting to, work out like a bodybuilder. Because even when I first joined the gym, I was doing things wrong. I was actually every time I went to the gym, I was training my entire body every day, like my entire body. Like trying to do like 4 sets and 3 exercises for every body part of my body. So I would get to the gym at like, let's say 2 in the afternoon, and end up leaving, and it'll be like freaking almost like 7 p.m. or something like that.
Oh my.
I'll be spending like so much time in there, just do it. But that was my first time going. I didn't, know anything about overtraining or,
Were you still
recovery.
were you seeing like vast improvements though as you were doing it?
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
early on, I'm sure you just would respond to anything.
Yeah, yeah, early on for sure. Especially like my friends, like they noticed it too. See, because the thing about it is, because that's the thing. Like when I told you that guy came up to me and he asked me if I competed. I mean, this was like around the first time, like one of the first times I was training there, um, at the gym. So I haven't even really begun to start put on any like muscle mass at that point. But see, I was a very lean, muscular, kind of skinny kid where like if I put clothes on, you wouldn't be able to tell that I had any muscle. I would just look like a kind of thin kid, regular kid.
Right.
But if I took my shirt off, you would see muscularity there,
Right.
but very lean. So he saw that because I was wearing a tank top at that time. So so just touching a weight at that point, anything, just doing anything, my body would respond to
Right.
it.
Yeah. At that age too, hormones are still really good,
Yeah, yeah.
responsive. Bruce Lee too. He was sort of like that. Like you probably looked even skinnier and smaller in a shirt than you, but he was really a good bodybuilder in terms of mind muscle connection. Like he would do those lat spreads and stuff. It was
Yeah,
pretty impressive.
absolutely. Hell yeah. I mean, that was actually the first time I didn't know it was called a lat spread at the time, but that was the first time I seen an actual lat spread. And when I
Right.
saw him do that in, I believe it was Way of the Dragon, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he, he did that, and then he turned around from behind, and did the same thing. I was like, wow, like what is that? You
Yeah.
know,
How did he get that big? Like from nothing. He just
he looked like he just like he went from like this to that, and then like I'm like, wow, like, it just looked like something so crazy, so freaky, and I'm like, how can a human being? I was like, he's not human. Bruce Lee's not human. And I would try to mimic that, not knowing that I'm actually doing a bodybuilding pose, but I'm there
right. Front relax.
mimicking everything. And it was very, very, very inspirational to see everything that he did.
So what was the first show that you actually did?
The first show that I did was the 2007 New York Metropolitan, and and then that show I got 7th in that show. I did do a wait, no, did I say 2007?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was 2008 actually. Actually, in
Okay.
2007, I did do a show before that where I got top 5. It was like the guy who was helping me. He set up the show, and well, not set up the show. He picked the show for me, and it was a show with a different organization.
Not
Yeah,
NBC.
exactly. So I got top 5 in that show, 5th place. I got 5th in that show, and then after that, the next year I wanted to do the NPC, and then when I did NPC, I did got 7th at the 2008 New York Metropolitan.
And when did you start working with Justin?
Oh, that was years later. I mean, I didn't start working with Justin until 2016.
Oh, okay. Once Classic Physique was happening.
Right. But you know what's funny though? It's like me and Justin, without even knowing it, like have, crossed paths before that, and and just we just never knew. And it's such an interesting dynamic because after the 2008 New York Metropolitan, I didn't do any more shows. I was just training. I wasn't doing any more shows until 2012. 2012, I did the same exact show, the New York Metropolitan. This time, I won the overall. Um,
Wow.
yeah, and it was against. I was a light heavyweight bodybuilder at the time, and and I won overall against a heavyweight guy who had already been a top national level guy for a few years. You know, my boy, whose name is Marvin Elliott, who I would train with all the time around that time, he was a super heavyweight, and I got the overall. And Justin apparently was in that crowd because I think Rita did that show too. His wife
Okay.
was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so he was there, he saw it, but we didn't know each other at the time. And I was, you know, I always I remember I said to Justin one day, I was like what if somebody, like let's say if there was time travel, what if somebody would have went back in time from here and went up to him that year and said, you see that guy on stage right there? You and him are gonna meet in a few years from now, and you guys are gonna do something special together, you know, in this sport. And I asked him like, what would you say if somebody told you that? I can't remember what the exact answer was, but I think I think he said something like, really? I don't think so. I don't know. But if somebody would have said that to me, I'd be like, oh, you're crazy, you're crazy. But
Right.
it's such an interesting dynamic, you know, because like two people who did eventually do something great together, like were there at the same, you know, there at the same time, you know, and we had no idea any of this was going to happen. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
The first show that you guys did together was it the Eastern USA's?
Yeah, it was the 2016 Eastern USA. That's correct.
Yeah, I was at that show. That was my introduction to you as a physique anyway. And then from there you went on to nationals.
That's right, nationals, and we won the overall. That's why I became the first ever classic physique national champion. Because at this time, classic physique was still you know, really new. I believe that was the year that they first had them in the Olympia.
Yes.
You know, and that's when Danny Hester won. Arash Rabar came in second. But yeah, and that was the first national, to the first year they had a nationals for it. So yeah, and I won that. So yeah, that made me the first national champion. I was like, wow, like you know, and when that happened, I was like, wow, like national shit, like how did this happen? You know, how did this happen? Like I was just retired from this sport just you know, last year, you know, and I've been away from even training as a bodybuilder. I was away from that for 3 years. I hadn't trained for about as a bodybuilder, and I haven't competed at all between 2013 and 2016. I hadn't competed at all. And then boom, just to, you know, get back into it and then become, you know, first ever, you know, national champion. I was like, wow, this is amazing. You know?
Yeah. And then the first pro show was the New York Pro, is that right?
Yeah, that was the first pro show. That's correct.
And you were second to Breon in that, I think.
That's
right?
correct. That's correct.
Yeah, that was an impressive show. That your physique even then, it was like apples and oranges with him, but you guys were definitely like miles ahead of everyone in that show.
Yeah. I mean, we definitely could have won that show. I mean, I definitely legitimately give Breon the win because you know, I was off. But if I was on, you know, and certain things were done differently, we could have won that show. I know that for sure.
What did that do? Did that do anything positive or negative for your confidence? I mean, it was the first pro show, it was a New York Pro, big show.
Yeah.
And you were second place.
Yeah. I mean, it didn't. It got me down a little bit at first. You know, you know, I was just, you know, because the reason why it got me down is because I knew that, you know, that we made some mistakes. But you know, but it's over now. You know, it's over.
Yeah.
Can't do anything about it. So we just gotta, you know, move on. But yeah, like I did take it a little bit hard. You know, first few days after it. But you know, after the first few days, you know, and you get over that little hump, you're right back into it. Yeah.
Right. And you did a number of shows, I think, that season, correct? Before the Olympia?
Yeah. I did the New York Pro, I did Chicago Pro, I did Vancouver Pro, and I did Tampa Pro. And then that's what qualified me for the Olympia when I won Tampa.
You won Tampa, right? There was one of them. Was it Vancouver where like the placing was really crazy?
Yeah, I got sixth place.
Yeah, it was nuts. It was. I couldn't understand that one. When something like that happened? I mean, first off, how did you feel about that placing? Did you think it was right, or did you think it was wrong?
I didn't think it was right. I thought I deserved, you know, much better than that. That was very weird. I mean, I can remember going backstage. I was like, I like, even though there was a bunch of people back there with me, I still felt alone.
Right.
You know what I mean? It was like, you know, it just didn't feel good. remember I text Justin, I was like, can you come backstage, please? Because I just, because like I said, like there was everybody was all around me back there doing their own thing, but I just felt like I was just alone. So I, needed him to come back there so we could talk. And I remember Justin, he was like, we're not leaving here until I gotta find out,
Right.
what the judges saw. I gotta talk to them, So we talked to judges, we accepted their feedback and everything like that. And we just, we just moved on. But at that time, that was the show that really got me down the most. So much so to the point where I was thinking about maybe hanging it up for this year.
Right.
And then maybe me and Justin could start up again the next year. I was like, okay, maybe we just can't make the Olympia this year. Let's, but Justin was adamant about me, to keep going. And, we even got into almost like a little bit of a spat because I was like, Justin, all right, look, I got second place, at the New York Pro, second place at Chicago, sixth place at Vancouver. Even if we, qualify, if we do this Tampa, and let's say even if we qualify on points, I was like, just what's the point of us doing the Olympia? I probably wouldn't even win. I'm not gonna win if I can't even. I was like, what was going in my head was, if I'm that good, then why aren't we getting a win? If I'm that good, that's what was going on.
Right. That show had to be that had to be a bit of a shakeup. After 2 shows of being second,
yeah,
that's had to be frustrating, confusing. Yeah,
it was very, 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 frustrating and confusing for sure. And believe it or not, that 6th place showing at Vancouver was one of my best looks of that year. If you take away the way I looked at the Olympia, then that would have been
the best. Wow. Yeah. I remember I didn't see that show. I saw pictures and videos, and I was so confused about it. That was crazy.
Right. And then I know exactly. And even it was even kind of like, weird. It's like when I won Tampa, the next show after Vancouver, I won Tampa. I would even say that the way I looked in Vancouver was even better than the way I looked when I won Tampa. Which so it's like, it's whatever. But me and Justin, kept talking to me, and I said, all right, let's do it. Let's go. Let's just get ready for this Tampa. Justin felt like, because I believe they were 6 weeks apart. Vancouver and Tampa were 6 weeks apart. So he said, George, we could do a lot in 6 weeks. So let's just keep going. And and then I just buckled down. I said, all right, let's do it. And then we showed up to Tampa and we got that win. And that rejuvenated me. Now I was like, I felt like I got my mojo back again. I'm good.
Right.
Now let's go ahead and let's get ready for this Olympia. There was no more thoughts about, oh, well, if it took if we did this and we only got this, then we're only going to do this at the Olympia. I threw all that out of the window. So let's just focus on becoming our best for the Olympia, and whatever happens, happens. No expectations.
That's awesome. Yeah. What were you at that point? And that's early on. Were you already at or near the limit of body weight?
Yeah, I was pretty much already at the limit at that point. So it was, hard. Because for a lot of those shows, I had to do some sauna sessions in order to make weight.
Yeah.
So I was pretty much already, at the limit. Yeah.
Where they were already was the weight limit then already what it is now, or was it 5 pounds?
That I believe. All right. So when I was an amateur in class physique, my weight limit was 177. So I had to make 177. When I turned pro, it would have been like just a 5 pound increase, but what they did was they had already increased the pro weight limit 5 pounds already. So instead of it being a 5 pound jump for me, it was a 10 pound jump. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you did that.
Exactly. So exactly. So now I was able to now my weight cutoff was 187 rather than 177. But and even though we had to do some sauna sessions for a few of those shows like Vancouver, I believe, we had to do it for Tampa too. We had to do it for Chicago as well. We did. But oddly enough, we didn't have to do it for the Olympia. As soon as we landed, I looked great. I wasn't holding any water. I was very close to the body weight. I think I was only within 5 pounds or something like that, or 4 pounds something. And Justin was looking at me pose in the hotel when we got there, and I still remember it. I did like one of those single arm hand on hip bicep,
Right, right.
and you know, I looked crazy. I looked crazy, and I just kept getting crazier and crazier, you know, as the days went on, you know, and I remember, I never forget it. I remember when we was leaving the hotel to head out for prejudging for that Olympia. Justin, he said to me, you know, I don't know what's going to happen here, George, but I can tell you one thing: you're going to be the best bodybuilder on that classic physique stage. You know, and how they judge that, I don't know, but you'll be the best bodybuilder on that classic physique stage, and that's when we got top three, and you know, I was very, very ecstatic. I was
I can
ecstatic.
imagine. I think for your whole tenure in the classic physique Olympia, that what Justin said there is that holds true. I think you were always the best bodybuilder on that stage. Just complete. What do you think in terms of conditioning? Every year, do you think you got a little better?
Yeah, I believe every year I got a little better. I mean, I believe 2000. Yeah, I got better every year. 2000 from 2017 to 2018, the condition definitely improved. However, in 2018, I was a bit flat, so I lost some of my pop. I think I had a little bit more pop in 2017 because I wasn't as flat, you know. But I was like dry. I was dry. I was very conditioned, more conditioned in 2018. I was just flat. You know, I was thinking too much of it, and I you know, just took away from my pop. 2019, like definitely by far,
Yeah,
when it comes to conditioning, the best out of all my classic physique runs. You know.
yeah, yeah. You know, I don't want to take. I'm not taking anything away from Chris Bumstead because I think he. I mean, especially this year, he looked freaking amazing, and I think he improved unbelievably so
Right.
to where it was a very dominant win in my opinion. But for all those years when he was placing second, for the years when he was placing second, and then the last year when he won,
Hmm.
I just couldn't see it. Like I really, I think that we all, you and me and Justin and many other people, were thinking of classic physique as bodybuilding with a weight limit,
Right.
and evidently it wasn't that. But there were so many confusing signs along the way. For instance, your win at the Arnold Classic,
Right.
where you were the best bodybuilder, maybe not the most classically classic physique looking guy,
Right. Right.
but you won. So to me, it was like, okay, so that's what it is. It is that. It's about bodybuilding.
Right. Right.
But then Olympia, when you got third again, that was really confusing to me. So I know that you had a little bit of a struggle there. I imagine anyway, where you were. Everyone was saying, George, you should be 212. You should be 212. You should be 212. And for a long time, you were like, I'm classic.
Mhm.
What finally made you change your mind?
Well, it was, you know, that the outcome of the 2019 Olympia, you know, because like I legitimately feel like we pretty much peaked to perfection. In my point, I feel like we peaked to perfection for that show. Uh, I don't think there's anything different we could have did, you know, for that show, and you know, we still got, you know, third place again. So I mean, and there's no place else to go. I mean, we don't have any, you know, more room to grow and make
Mhm.
that weight. So
Right, and you couldn't get any more conditioned. You were already shredded. There's
right,
nothing you could do. Right now.
right, exactly. So it just felt like, okay, now's the time. Now's the time for us to make the switch. You know what I mean? So it was almost like the decision was made for us. You know, like we just,
Mhm.
it's now's the time. And you know, and I feel like it was a good move. You know, we did what we did what we could. I mean, we had
Right.
a great track record in classic, three bronze medals, an Arnold title. You know, and I think that that Arnold win may have sparked something, you know, within the bodybuilding community about, you know, the whole difference between classic and bodybuilding, and you know, for you know, who knows you know, if that you know, because you do want the divisions to have a different look from each other,
Right. Right.
you know. So I can understand that. So let's say if you know, if they felt like I was too much of looked too much of like a bodybuilder, if they would have awarded me the class physique Mr. Olympia, but I also look like I could possibly win 212, then you're gonna confuse you know, the people with the untrained eyes. Okay, well, what's the difference between this and this? So I can understand that. So, in that
There's,
regard,
yeah, there's so many people too that do have and people who, for instance, have followed me for years on Instagram, and I try to educate and everything, as much as possible, but there's still like an untrained eye. Looking at pictures on Instagram, watching videos on YouTube, it's all one thing. But when you're there, that's when you can see the real difference in these divisions. Because so many people are like, oh, Raymond Edmonds should do classic physique. He looks like a bodybuilder. There's a big difference between Raymond and the guys in classic physique.
absolutely.
All those guys,
Absolutely.
they can't just make a jump. It takes a long time.
Right. Absolutely.
And so, although to the untrained eye, your classic physique may have looked like someone that should belong in 212.
Yeah.
Clearly, you had a big jump to make for 212 in terms of body weight.
Right. Absolutely. Definitely. It was much more comfortable, like kind of prep too, as far as there's no stress worrying about making weight,
Right.
we knew we could make 212. But now I didn't have that fear factor in my head, because every time we was getting ready for a classic show, the one thing that would be in my mind more than anything was just, oh my God, like, we just got to make weight. What if we don't make weight? I mean, like, geez, well, we can't not make weight. I've been there and seen guys at the weigh-ins step on a scale and not make weight. And I mean, I remember it was at the Chicago, it was a Chicago Pro. And we were all lining up to get out, to have the weight checked. And apparently, whatever guys didn't make weight, they had to do bodybuilding instead.
Cool.
They made them do bodybuilding instead of class. I don't know if that's how they still do it today, if a competitor doesn't make weight. But I remember at that show, I remember a couple of guys, they didn't make weight, so they was forced to do bodybuilding. So I was like, we just got to make weight. Like, we can't let that, interfere with what we're doing here for classic physique. So that was always on my mind, but now I don't have that factor in my mind anymore.
Right. So in terms of training, did anything really change for you going from the classic physique to 212 in terms of just training?
Honestly, no. I mean,
No.
Training, still remain the same. Still trying to, build as much muscle as possible, quality muscle tissue. The one thing that changed is just that now I'm able to eat more, and like for my off season, I don't have to worry about hindering my weight my growth as before. Like with classic, we would always try to keep me like at like 225, 230 at the most.
Mm-hmm.
With 212, now I have the liberty, if I want to go up to 250 possibly. But as long as it's good quality,
Right.
go up to 250 if I wanted to.
What did you get to at your biggest?
My biggest, actually, I got to about say 245. My biggest for the previous little kind of short off season, but making that transition from classic to 212. So we'll do that again. I'm thinking maybe we end up going to 250 this time around, and maybe keeping it there at 250. And then when it's time to start dieting down, we diet down from there.
What type of training? How would you describe your training style?
I would say high volume training style, high volumes. I like to keep the rep ranges high. I usually keep the rep ranges like between 12 and 15 reps. I mean, even when I go to the real heavy sets, like the heaviest set, I try to still get at least 10 reps out. I've never really done the whole 6 rep thing.
Right.
And if I ever do like a set where it's like I can only get 6 reps out of it just because I'm just like fatigued at that point, I'll usually turn it into a drop set. So I can get the 6 reps in or 8 reps, whatever I can get, and then drop the weight and then try to get either another 6 or 8 or even possibly another 10 reps out. Yeah.
Awesome. This past year, your first 212 show was it Tampa again?
Yeah, it was Tampa Pro. Yep.
Yeah, and it took place in Tampa.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
It's one of the few shows this year that took place in the city that it's supposed to. You were what was your body weight for that show?
My body weight, I weighed in around 211, and I was on stage. How much did I weigh by the time I got on stage? You drive me out a little bit, so I believe I was on stage around like 209 ish.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that was my weight.
And at the Olympia, it was pretty much the same.
Yeah, it was about the same. It was about the same. So weighed in with clothes like at 212. So without clothes, I was probably like 211 and change. And then yeah, would drive me out some more. And then I think I was on stage at that point around like 208, something so it's similar.
Yeah, similar. So, which of those physiques did you prefer, the Tampa Pro or the Olympia?
The Olympia was a better physique. The
Mhm.
Olympia Sean was a better physique. But I mean, but neither are close to, my full potential, what I could do. I mean, um like I'll take the Olympia Sean for example. Like I would rank that at maybe 85% of my full potential. Uh, because I believe I was like too we drive me out too much, so I was a bit flat. I wasn't really popping the way I should have been. So I believe that cost us. We come in there like on the money, like like razor sharp hard, with still like that fullness. Um, I believe we get that victory. I believe it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think for sure. The thing that was really cool to see, like the day, 2 days or so before the Olympia, looking at your physique that close, few feet away, uh, with already coat of tan on and everything. It was amazing how your body has become very balanced.
Mhm.
You can't knock anything on you in terms of upper body and lower body matching. Now, I think the legs look great.
Thank you. Yeah, we've been working on them steadily, year after year, and they've been improving, year after year. So we're just gonna keep doing what we're doing, and and I believe our time will come. And now we have a full year, pretty much, almost a full year, I believe, to get ready for this next Olympia. And I believe like with a nice full year and like off season training. Um, well, with more time of off season training, I should say, before we have to start dieting down again for the next Olympia. I believe we're gonna blow the previous Olympia showing completely out of the water, and I believe people are not gonna expect what they see.
Right.
Not gonna
And
expect it.
you have a few pounds to grow still, like not many, but a few.
Yeah.
And if you match that, the conditioning and the pop that you had in 2019 to the new size,
Yeah.
I swear, I don't see anyone beating you in 212.
And then with that, that's the goal. I mean, that's believe it or not, I mean, the goal is to even top that condition that I had in 2019, top that, be even more ripped than that, and with more muscle as well, with more muscle than I had, last year for the Olympia. Bring that together, bring that to life. It'll be freaky. It'll be freaky. Justin truly believes he can help me achieve that, and I believe he can help me achieve it as well.
Yeah, I have no doubts. Um, Talking before about like all the martial arts actors, Van Damme, Seagal, Lee, all those guys. You've got a lot of charisma yourself. Do you ever think that you might try to get into entertainment in any way other than bodybuilding?
I would love to. I definitely wouldn't be opposed to that. I don't know if I ever told you, but I actually took theater in high school. That was
Oh
my
wow.
Yeah, that was my major. I wanted to be an actor. Like career wise, I wanted to be an actor at first. But then like after I graduated high school, for some reason I just felt like, maybe I'm just better off just getting into something else. So I started studying computers, and I got my degree in computer engineering, and I fell in love with that. And I had big dreams with that. Like when I started studying computer engineering and loving what I was learning, I saw myself one day possibly working for Apple or Microsoft or Amazon, one of these big time companies doing something. I enjoyed working with all the different coding, Java, Python, everything. Um, but then I just inevitably ended up getting back into the bodybuilding world. So, but as far as your question, yeah, I could definitely see myself, doing something entertainment wise. If the opportunity presents itself, or if I create the opportunity myself, I can definitely see myself doing something like that because I love stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're always good on the mic. And speaking about being good on the mic and another form of entertainment, I know you're into professional wrestling.
Oh yes, I love it. Absolutely.
Was that any sort of an influence for you in bodybuilding at all?
No, not really, not really. I mean, because when I mean, even when I would see guys like the Ultimate Warrior, Hulk Hogan, Lex Luger, the jacked
Yeah.
up, wrestlers, I never really like associated it with bodybuilding. I was just like, these guys are freaky muscular. I just,
Right.
that's what all I saw. But I just always kept it in the realm of wrestling. I mean,
Right.
and those type of wrestlers actually weren't my favorite wrestlers. Like my favorite wrestler of all time is Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Okay.
A close, like I don't know, like when it comes, I would say Stone Cold Steve Austin, but right there is Shawn Michaels.
Oh, that's my man.
Yeah.
Shawn's my favorite. I mean, and it's interesting that you say that too, because as a bodybuilding fan, I did. Growing up, I'm much older than you, so there were people like superstar Billy Graham, Ken Patera, Tony Atlas, then Hulk Hogan, and all these guys came along after that, and yeah, it was cool to see them as bodybuilders, as these big muscled dudes. But the best guys in the ring were never those guys. It was always someone like Shawn Michaels who could put on like an amazing performance.
Absolutely, and Bret Hart,
Yeah.
another one of my favorites. That like the Attitude Era wrestlers, like that was, for me, that was the best time. That was the time I actually started to get into it. Like I started to get into it like around '96, and then like that's when like the Attitude Era was starting to kind of like pick up. It didn't really pick up until about late '97, '98. But it was in that time, that was when I was, really into it, like heavy. I mean, it was like, I remember, and I actually, I don't know if you remember the Monday Night Raw where Stone Cold Steve Austin stunned Vince McMahon for the very first time.
Yeah.
I was there live.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. My mother took me there. And,
that was one of the worst stunners ever.
I know, the way he took it, right?
Vince did not take it really well.
No, not at all. And he's on the ground. He's like shivering as if he got really stunned by the stun gun or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was so hilarious. But yeah, it was like it was one thing when you watch these Monday Night Raws on TV, but when you just walk into the arena, it was a Madison Square Garden. You see the ring, and then you see these larger than life characters in person, like you just lose your mind. Like I remember I lost my freaking mind. And I had the original Austin 316 shirt. I kick myself in the ass every day because I don't have it anymore.
I still have mine.
You still got yours?
Yeah.
Yeah, I kicked mine. I should have kept that, but I didn't have any idea at that time.
Right.
But and it was so big at that point, at that time. I remember when I was wearing it going to school. I remember I was taking the bus to school, and I was walking to the bus stop, and when I walked by these kids, and they were other high school kids, but they were older than me. They were like, "Yo, he has the Austin 316 shirt." Like when it was like, you know what I mean? Like you could tell that this, like at that point, wrestling, especially Steve Austin, was huge. You know what I'm saying?
Oh man, it was so huge. And I remember, because I'd been a fan forever, I just loved when the Attitude Era came along, because it was the first time it was cool. So it was like, okay, I'm not a nerd into wrestling. I'm one of the cool dudes, right?
Exactly. Hell yeah, you know what I mean? Because the storylines got cool. You know what I mean? Like
right.
they became risque. They became more like like they started catering more so to the high school and college kids,
right?
As opposed to like like the little kids. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the storylines were good. The people that were like the most successful were the guys with the best charisma and were the best athletes.
Yeah. So
it became just the product. The quality was just so much better than any other time.
I mean, absolutely. But something, and this is to like, I guess in a way kind of defend the current stat, because I hear the current people giving the current status of wrestling a lot of flack, but this is to kind of defend it in a way. We always say that wrestling today is not like it was back then, but you have to realize nothing today is like the way it was back then. Nothing. Like even sports, like like basketball to me isn't as exciting as it was when Iverson was playing, when Kobe was playing, when Jordan was playing. I mean, like, nothing is like it was, and it wasn't just wrestling. So you got to think, oh, they say, oh, why did wrestling go from, that risque material to more like, kind of PG-13 kid friendly stuff? Well, at that time, during the Attitude Era, what was going on and everything else? You had South Park out there.
Right.
You had Beavis and Butthead. You had
exactly
Howard Stern with his crazy stuff.
You had President Clinton and Monica Lewinsky. Everything was risque in the whole culture.
Yeah. That was the time, So like that, we're in a different time now, so they can't do that anymore. You know what I'm saying?
Right. But so I'm bringing all this up as a way to ask you: would you ever consider doing something like that, WWE?
Oh hell yeah, I would definitely do something like that. Well, I mean, I would love to do something like that. That would be a dream come true if I got a chance to do something like that. Because me and my boys, me and my god brothers, we actually would always pretend to be wrestlers, like in the backyard and everything whenever we play outside and everything like that. And we started our own federation called the KWF, which stood for the Kids Wrestling Federation.
Okay.
we cut out this cardboard championship belt to make it look like the Winged Eagle belt almost, and we would, have wrestling matches. And hell yeah, I would love to do it. I would love to do it. Especially cut a nice promo. Like
absolutely.
I'll give you a promo right now.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So quick. What did you just ask me? Oh, you go ahead. You gonna ask me something?
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay.
You got it. You got it.
What did you just ask me? Did you just ask me what I'm gonna do when I get to that ring? Let me tell you something. I'm gonna do something so spectacular when I get to that ring. You wouldn't even be able to understand what I'm telling you if I explained it to you. All you gotta do is just point that camera at the ring and make sure you get the good side of my face. Because when you get the good side of my face, you're gonna see the worst part of my foot go right up his rear end, and I'm gonna pin his ASS for the 1, 2, 3, and I'm gonna be the man of all eternity. You got anything else to ask me? Well, you better ask it now, because I'm walking out of this place right now.
All right. That was off the cuff. Or do you practice that every night in front of the
mirror? I just started rambling, bro.
That was good. That's good. In the old days, that's how they did it. Now, though, they mostly write scripts for the people, I think. But
yeah.
That was great.
Yeah, I know. That was so silly. I got into my word.
That was great. You were lost in there.
When people hear that, they're gonna be like, "What the hell is George smoking?"
I might just cut that clip and use that as the for the Instagram promo, and people be like, who's he talking about?
You should you should use that.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So for this year, for 2021, nothing until the Olympia, right?
Yeah, as right now, the only thing we have focused on is the Olympia. I mean, things are still uncertain. I mean, who knows what's going to happen with the Arnold Classic? And on top of that, we don't even know if they do have the Arnold Classic, we don't know if they're going to have 212 in it. So that's one thing. Athleticon was a show that we wanted to do. I mean, depending on the timing, I guess, whatever happens, that could possibly be a show that we would consider, if it's going down.
Right. Before, I know it was originally supposed to be after the Olympia, but I don't know how things are going to go this year.
Right. I mean, I don't know either. So that's why it's hard to kind of say. But at this point, the Olympia is the only show that we have on the radar right now.
Awesome. Is there anything that you would like to say to people watching, or?
I just want to thank you everybody for tuning in who sat through and listened to us talk about a bunch of different topics. I hope they enjoyed it. Hope they that I didn't bore them too much. I want to give a shout out to my boy Justin Miller, my coach, and appreciate all his help. Shout out to my sponsors, Redcon One, Mega Fit Meals, Northern Chill Water, Pro Tan, the best tanning company in the business. And just that's just, and my family, of course. Definitely appreciate my family. They're the rock. They're my foundation. You know what I'm saying? And they're the rock that keeps me steady. And whenever anything goes right or wrong in my life, I always have them there. So I appreciate them greatly. So definitely to all my family, and And for everybody out there listening, look, if you have a dream and you have something out there that you want to accomplish, don't be afraid to put in the time and put in the effort that it takes to achieve it. Because and you have to realize that, when you have big goals, big dreams, there's going to be sacrifices that you're going to have to make in order to achieve it. There's going to be, possible casualties that go on. You may, a friendship may get tarnished because you weren't able to, go and hang out as often, or, whatever. But, look, you just got to do what you got to do, because the fact of the matter is that it's your dream. The key word is it's your dream. So if you shortchange that for anything else, you're only shortchanging yourself.
That's great. That's very true. George, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being sort of the guinea pig here and the first person to go with an interview on this podcast. I really appreciate it, man.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
And, I hope to have you on again sometime in the near future. And I'm definitely going to have Justin on too, so I can hear some stories about you behind your back, which will be great.
And also, yeah, definitely have Justin on here.
Yeah. All right, brother. Thank you so much. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And this is Michael Bryson, George Peterson. This is Bodybuilding.